The stars burned cold and distant above the ruined colony world of Asterion. 4. Smoke still rose from the shattered cities where alien ships had rained fire for 3 long days. The last human transmission had gone silent 40 hours ago. To the rest of the galaxy, it was over. The invasion of Asterion, 4, had ended. The Deathworlders were gone. But the aliens had made one mistake. They had left survivors. In the quiet dark, beneath the broken surface, a small human signal pulsed again. It was faint, hidden under static, but it was there, like a heartbeat refusing to die. On board the alien command ship, Admiral Xiron of the Velcor Empire watched the readouts flicker. His 4 eyes narrowed. "That world is finished," his second-in-command hissed. "Perhaps," Xiron replied slowly. "But the Deathworlders, they have a habit of not staying dead." He wasn't wrong. Deep in the underground tunnels of Asterion, 4, Captain Mara Holt wiped the blood from her cheek and checked her rifle. The power cells were nearly drained. Around her, 12 surviving soldiers waited in silence, their faces hard, eyes burning with anger. They had seen their friends burned alive. They had watched the skies fall. But they were still here. And that meant the fight wasn't over. "Command went dark?" Sergeant Lewis asked quietly. Mara nodded. "No signal from high orbit. Fleet's gone or out of range." "So, what now?" Mara stared at the flickering map on her wrist pad. "Now," she said, "we make them remember who we are." Above them, the Velcor fleet began to pull away, leaving only drones to sweep the ruins. The warlords believed the planet conquered. They didn't understand that for humans, defeat was just another phase before revenge. The first explosion hit at dawn. A Velcor drone patrol vanished in a flash of blue fire. Then, another. By the time Admiral Xiron ordered his ships to investigate, half the city's monitoring posts were silent. The Deathworlders had started hunting back. The aliens were used to war. They had fought 100 species, crushed planets, enslaved whole civilizations. But humans were something else. They came from a world that killed everything that wasn't strong enough to adapt. Poisoned air, burning deserts, frozen poles, and they had thrived. Now, that same instinct drove them through the wreckage of Asterion. 4. They used scavenged alien weapons, homemade traps, and sheer will. One by one, the Velcor drones fell. Captain Mara's team moved like ghosts. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. Every step was silent. Every shot counted. But Mara knew this wouldn't last. They were running out of ammo. No rescue had come. That's when they caught a transmission. It wasn't human. It was alien. And it was close. Reinforcements arriving. Fleet inbound, Sector 7. Mara froze. Reinforcements. That meant more enemies were coming. Thousands more. And yet, as she listened, she caught something else. A code embedded deep in the message, one she recognized instantly. It was Terran. Human encryption. "Wait," she whispered. "Run that back." Lewis replayed it, and the faint human signal came through again. "Hold position. Reinforcements inbound. Repeat, Deathworld Command has received your distress beacon." The silence that followed was heavy. Then someone laughed, a broken, disbelieving laugh. "Reinforcements," Lewis said. "You think they'll really come?" Mara's eyes hardened. If that message reached them, they're already on their way. Far above, beyond the reach of alien scanners, the Terran fleet was burning through space. Ships older than some planets, forged from steel and rage, moved in formation. At their center, the dreadnought TSV Goliath led the charge. Its commander, Admiral Reyes, stood on the bridge as stars streaked past. His voice was calm, but his eyes were cold. "They hit a colony," he said quietly. "They thought they could erase us." His second officer looked up. "Sir, do we have confirmation of survivors?" Reyes nodded once. "We do. And that's all we need." He turned toward the view screen, where the blue glow of Asterion 4 grew larger every second. "Open the armories," he ordered. "Wake every marine. Load every gun." A pause. Then, "Let's remind the galaxy what Deathworlders really are." The fleet jumped into real space like thunder. The alien patrols never saw it coming. Light tore across the sky as the first Terran ships broke through the clouds, raining fire on the invaders. Down below, Captain Mara heard the sky roar, and for the first time in days, she smiled. "Looks like the cavalry made it," Lewis said, voice shaking. Mara raised her weapon, eyes fixed on the burning sky. "No," she said quietly. "The Deathworlders have arrived." The ground shook as the Terran Marines descended in black drop pods. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. The alien skies burned red as the first Terran reinforcements descended. From orbit, the Velcor fleet watched in disbelief. They had never seen humans strike back this fast. Admiral Zyron stood at the command deck, his mandibles twitching in confusion. "How many ships?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir," a nervous officer replied. "We detect at least 30 human warships." 30, Zyron hissed. "Impossible. Their colonies were crippled." But it was true. The Deathworlders had come. In the ruins of Asterion 4, Captain Mara Holt watched streaks of light carve through the clouds. The dropships fell like fiery meteors. The air trembled as the pods smashed into the ground around her position. A hatch exploded open, and Terran Marines stepped out, armored in black steel with glowing blue visors. Each one carried weapons too heavy for most species to lift. One of them saluted her. "Captain Holt? Command sent us to clean up your mess," he said with a grin. Mara almost laughed. "Then you better hurry. We've got company." Above them, the alien fleet opened fire. Plasma beams rained down, burning through the sky. But the Terran dreadnoughts answered with a storm of railgun fire. Metal slugs the size of cars tore through alien shields and hulls. One Velcor cruiser split in half, its wreckage falling into the atmosphere like a dying comet. The ground shook again as Terran tanks rolled out of the landing pods. Massive war machines, dark and scarred, their cannons glowing hot. Behind them came combat drones and med units, pulling survivors out of the rubble. For the first time in days, Asterion 4 was no longer silent. It was alive with the sound of war. On the alien command ship, Admiral Zyron's composure began to crack. "Evacuate the forward battalions," he ordered. "Regroup in orbit. We cannot fight them planetside." "But sir," his second officer stammered, "our warriors still control the capital." "Then they will die in the capital," Zyron snapped. "We are not dying with them." He turned toward the main screen, watching as the Terran fleet tore through his ships like wolves among sheep. "How?" he whispered. "How can a death world breed monsters like these?" Back on the surface, Mara stood beside the Marine commander, Lieutenant Kane. "Fleet Command has retaken orbit," he said, checking his wrist display. "We're pushing forward to the alien control zone. Your squad's coming with us." Mara nodded. "We'll take point." They moved through the shattered streets, smoke rising from the wreckage. The enemy wasn't retreating quietly. Sniper fire cracked from broken towers. Drones circled above. But humans didn't stop. They advanced through fire and chaos, silent and focused. Kane's Marines used suppressive fire while Mara's team cleared the alleys. Every corner was death, every shadow a trap. But each time the Velcor tried to stand their ground, they fell. Humans didn't fight like the other species of the galaxy. They didn't rely on formation or predictability. They fought dirty. They improvised. And most of all, they enjoyed the fight. At one point, a Velcor ambush detonated a plasma mine right under their path. The explosion threw 2 Marines off their feet. Smoke filled the air. Kane pulled himself up, coughing. "You still breathing?" Mara grinned, blood running down her temple. "Barely. Let's keep it that way." They pressed on until the capital ruins came into view, and there, in the middle of the city, stood a massive alien fortress glowing with blue energy. "That's their command center," Kane said. "Take that down, and this world's ours again." High above, Admiral Reyes watched the battle unfold on his flagship. "Sir, alien fleet is scattering," the tactical officer reported. Reyes nodded slowly. "Don't let them escape. We finish this here." He knew what was at stake. If the Velcor fled, they'd warn the entire Empire. Humanity's return would no longer be a secret. Reyes leaned forward, voice calm and deadly. "All ships, focus fire on their flagship. Make them understand what happens when you touch a death world." The command ship tried to flee, but it was too late. The Goliath's main cannon charged, humming like an angry god. The shot ripped through space, and the alien flagship erupted in a wave of blinding light. Zyron never had time to scream. Down on the planet, the shockwave hit seconds later. Mara and her team felt the rumble under their boots. "Was that?" Lewis began. Mara smiled faintly. "That was payback." The humans pushed forward. The alien command fortress was still active, but its defenses were failing. Energy shields flickered. Power lines sparked. As they reached the outer wall, Kane pointed upward. "See that signal tower? That's where their comlink is. If we destroy it, the entire invasion force will go blind." "Then we climb," Mara said. The team ascended through wreckage and debris, cutting through alien guards. The air smelled of smoke and ozone. Every breath was a reminder that they were fighting for survival, not just theirs, but for every human colony watching from afar. When they reached the top, Mara planted the Terran flag next to the enemy transmitter. The symbol fluttered weakly in the burning wind. Then she armed a pulse grenade. "For Asterion," she whispered. The explosion lit the sky. The alien network went dark. Every surviving Velcor ship in orbit lost contact with its ground troops. Panic spread across their ranks. From orbit, Admiral Reyes gave the final command. "Broadcast to all frequencies. Let them hear it." The message echoed across the system, carried on every open channel. "To any species listening, humanity is not extinct. You attacked our worlds. You burned our cities. Now you've seen what happens when Deathworlders arrive." As the dust settled, Mara stood on the tower, watching the sunrise through the smoke. The war for Asterion, 4 was ending. But the war for the galaxy had just begun. The war for Asterion, 4 was over. Smoke still rose from the alien ruins, but the Terran flag now stood over the shattered capital. To the survivors, it felt like victory. To the galaxy, it felt like a warning. News of the battle spread faster than light. Every major species heard the same whisper. "The Deathworlders are back." Across the stars, governments panicked. Some called emergency meetings, others sealed their borders. Entire systems went silent. No one wanted to be next. But far beyond the quiet fear, in the dark halls of the Velcor Empire, something else was brewing: vengeance. Deep inside the fortress planet Vraxis Prime, the surviving admirals of the Velcor gathered in the war chamber. The atmosphere was heavy with smoke and pride. Their leader, High Strategist Korthal, slammed his clawed hand on the table. "One human fleet destroyed 4 of our armadas," he snarled. "They kill our warriors, burn our ships, and call it victory. This insult cannot stand." An officer trembled. "The Deathworlders fight without fear, strategist. Their weapons, their endurance, no other species can match them." Korthal leaned forward, eyes blazing. "Then we will not fight them like other species. We will erase them from history." He raised a holomap of human colonies. Hundreds of glowing dots. "Strike them fast. Strike them all. Before they unite." The Velcor Empire began to prepare the largest counterattack in its history. Back on Asterion 4, Captain Mara Holt stood among the ruins, watching evac ships lift wounded civilians into orbit. Her face was tired, but her eyes stayed sharp. The victory had cost too much, too many dead, too many cities gone. Lieutenant Kane walked up beside her. Fleet Command says we're heading home soon. Home. Mara gave a bitter smile. If there's any left. They both looked toward the horizon, where broken towers cut through the smoke. A small drone hovered down and projected a message. Admiral Reyes appeared as a hologram, his face grim. Captain Holt. Good work down there. But it's not over. Intelligence reports a massive buildup near the Velcor core worlds. They're coming back, and this time, they'll bring everything they have. Mara's stomach tightened. How long do we have? Reyes paused. Weeks. Maybe less. Far from the battlefield, on the neutral world of Zalera, alien diplomats gathered to discuss the Terran threat. The chamber buzzed with fear. The humans are unstable, hissed Aurelian senator. They fight like beasts. We should ban them from galactic space. Another delegate, a slender being from the Lasari Republic, spoke quietly. Ban them. You think you can control a species that turned a death world into paradise? They survived their own planet. You can't ban that. Silence fell. None of them wanted to admit the truth. Humanity had done what no one else dared. They had faced extinction and answered with fury. Meanwhile, on the Terran flagship TSV Goliath, Admiral Reyes met with his senior officers. The room glowed with blue tactical maps. The Velcor are gathering, Reyes said. We can't wait for them to come. We take the fight to them. An officer frowned. Sir, the Council hasn't approved. Reyes cut him off. The Council didn't approve Asterion either. We fight now, or they'll hit every colony we've got. He turned to the fleet display, where hundreds of Terran ships were refueling and arming. Prepare a strike group. We're going into enemy space. Night fell again on Asterion, 4. The stars looked peaceful, but Mara knew better. She stood beside the graves of her fallen soldiers, their helmets lined in a row. She spoke softly, almost to herself. They think this is over. They think they can scare us. But we're Deathworlders. Fear is what built us. A small transmission pinged on her wrist pad. She opened it, a classified message from Fleet Command. Operation Revenant. She read the first line and froze. Captain Mara Holt assigned to Special Operations Task Force under Admiral Reyes. Mission: Infiltration of Velcor Stronghold. Objective: Identify enemy command and destroy it from within. She looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, billions of alien eyes were watching humanity with fear. Good, she thought. They should be afraid. On Vraxis Prime, the Velcor High Command completed their war machine, a new type of supership, larger than any human dreadnought, armed with plasma cannons capable of burning moons. They named it the Harbinger of Silence. Korthal stood before it, pride swelling in his chest. Let the Deathworlders come, he hissed. We will show them silence eternal. But even as he spoke, his sensors detected something at the edge of their system. Faint, fast, and closing in. A Terran recon vessel. The Deathworlders were already here. Above Asterion, 4, the Terran fleet burned like a storm of steel. Inside the command room, Admiral Reyes looked at the newest transmission, Mara's mission details and a single phrase sent by command. The galaxy watches. Make them remember. Reyes closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened them, gaze hard as stone. Prepare jump coordinates for Vraxis Prime. The fleet engines roared. Space folded around them. Humanity was going hunting. The stars around Vraxis Prime shimmered like cold knives in the dark. The planet below glowed with the blue light of alien factories, building warships day and night. The Velcor Empire was ready for revenge. But so were the Deathworlders. In the void beyond the system, the Terran fleet waited, silent, hidden behind asteroid shadows. Inside the strike ship Tempest, Captain Mara Holt adjusted her black infiltration armor. Around her, 12 soldiers prepared in silence. No banners, no speeches. Just the calm before chaos. Their mission was simple: sneak into the Velcor capital, gather intel on their new superweapon, and get out alive. Simple, but not easy. Lieutenant Kane checked his weapon. You sure about this, Captain? Whole enemy empire down there. Mara smirked. We've faced worse. Remember Asterion? He laughed softly. Yeah. You almost got us killed. She grinned. Almost. The ship trembled as the drop bay opened. Mara looked one last time at the stars. Let's show them what Deathworlders look like up close. The pods launched silently, streaking down through the thick clouds of Vraxis Prime. Alien radar swept the skies, but Terran stealth tech, designed in the ashes of a dozen wars, kept them invisible. They landed miles from the capital fortress, in a toxic wasteland filled with metallic dust and lightning storms. Even here, life fought to survive. Mutated beasts with crystal skin crawled through the fog. The air itself burned the lungs. But the humans kept moving. For them, this wasn't hell. This was home. Hours later, they reached the edge of the capital. Vraxis Prime City rose like a nightmare of black towers and burning lights. Giant alien war machines walked the streets, their footsteps shaking the ground. Drone patrols circled above. Mara studied the defenses through her scope. They've built an army, she whispered. If this thing launches, half the galaxy burns. Then we make sure it never does, Kane replied. They moved through the shadows, slipping past guards, hacking alien doors with human tech. Inside the fortress walls, the air hummed with strange energy. Massive conduits pulsed under their boots, carrying power to something deep below. As they descended, they found it. The harbinger of silence. The ship wasn't a war vessel, it was a monster of metal, nearly a kilometer long, still being built. Its weapons glowed with unstable plasma. One shot from it could erase a continent. Mara stared in awe. They're planning to destroy whole worlds. Kane swallowed. How do we stop something like that? She smiled grimly. The same way we stop everything. We blow it up. In the control chamber above the hangar, High Strategist Korthal watched his engineers work. He had heard rumors, human survivors, infiltrations, sabotage, but he didn't believe them. Humans would never dare come here, he growled. They're bold, but not suicidal. He was wrong. Mara and her team burst into the chamber, weapons blazing. The aliens barely had time to react before they fell. Smoke filled the air. Alarms screamed. Korthal turned, fury twisting his face. You dare enter the heart of the Empire. Mara leveled her rifle. We don't just enter, Admiral. We finish what you started. He lunged forward, claws outstretched, but Kane shot first. The alien leader fell, his blood glowing blue on the metal floor. Mara approached the control console, hands moving fast. Plant the charges. All of them. Explosives blinked red along the walls. The team had minutes, maybe less. Kane opened the comm line. Tempest, we're ready for extraction. Static answered. Then a voice broke through, Admiral Reyes himself. Negative, Captain. Enemy fleet is closing in on your position. You're on your own for now. Hold tight. Mara cursed under her breath. Great. Stuck in the heart of hell. Outside, Velcor forces flooded the corridors. Hundreds of soldiers. Drones. Tanks. The humans formed a tight line, defending the detonation point. Plasma bolts filled the air. Sparks flew. One by one, Mara's soldiers fell, but they didn't retreat. Not one step. Kane reloaded and shouted over the noise, they just keep coming. Mara slammed a fresh clip into her rifle. Then we keep shooting. Minutes felt like hours. The room shook with fire and death. Then the countdown hit 10 seconds. Mara took one last look at her team, bloodied, silent, unbroken. Deathworlders, she said softly, let's give them something to remember. She hit the trigger. The harbinger of silence exploded in a storm of light. The blast ripped through the fortress, consuming everything. From orbit, the explosion looked like a new sun rising over Vraxis Prime. Hours later, among the ashes, a Terran dropship searched the ruins. Picking up life signs, the pilot said. One human signal. Inside a crater, they found Mara, half buried under metal and dust. Her armor was cracked, but she was alive. Barely. As they lifted her aboard, she whispered, "Did we stop it?" The medic smiled. "Yeah, Captain. You stopped it." Her eyes closed. "Good. Then it was worth it." On board the TSV Goliath, Admiral Reyes watched the data feed. The enemy superweapon was gone. Half the Velcor fleet had fallen. But he didn't smile. He knew this was only the beginning. Because when you destroy an empire's pride, they don't surrender. They come for revenge. And humanity would be ready. The silence after the explosion was not peace. It was the quiet before another storm. The harbinger of silence was gone, its pieces still burning across Vraxis Prime. The shockwave had crippled the Velcor capital. Entire cities had fallen into the planet's molten crust. But the Empire did not die that day, it screamed. Every Velcor ship in the nearby sectors received the same message. The humans destroyed our pride. Now we destroy their world. 3 days later, far from enemy space, Captain Mara Holt opened her eyes in a medical bay aboard the TSV Goliath. The room was dim, quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Her body ached, covered in scars and cybernetic grafts. "You're awake," said a familiar voice. Admiral Reyes stood beside her bed. His face looked older, wearier. "You shouldn't be alive," he said. Mara smirked weakly. "That's what they always say about Deathworlders." Reyes handed her a data pad. "You destroyed their super weapon. But they're not finished. Our sensors picked up movement, an entire Velcor armada heading for Earth." Mara's heart froze. "Earth?" He nodded grimly. "They want revenge. They're bringing everything." Across the void, the Velcor fleet moved like a dark storm, hundreds of ships, glowing with blue plasma. At its head was the new flagship, the Vengeance of Silence, larger and deadlier than anything before. High Strategist Korthal was dead, but his successor, General Vraxin, had sworn to burn humanity's cradle to ash. He stood before his fleet, his 4 eyes glowing with fury. "They call themselves Deathworlders," he snarled. "Then we shall visit death upon their world." Back on the Goliath, the Terran fleet scrambled for defense. Reyes called every colony, every warship, every outpost. "Earth is under threat," he said. "This is not just another war. This is the one that decides if our species survives." In the command center, officers rushed between consoles. The holographic map showed hundreds of enemy signatures closing in. Lieutenant Kane stepped forward. "Sir, even with every ship we have, they outnumber us 5-1. Reyes nodded. "Then we fight 6 times harder." He turned to Mara. "You led the mission that crippled their empire. Now I need you to lead another." Mara's brow furrowed. "Another?" He showed her a projection of a small alien device, glowing faintly red. This was recovered from the wreckage on Vraxis. "It's a quantum beacon, Velcor tech. We think it can tear open subspace fields. If we can reverse it, we can collapse their jump corridor before they reach Earth." Mara's eyes hardened. "So we cut off their path." Reyes nodded. "Exactly. But you'll have to do it in deep space, right in front of their fleet." Mara smiled. "Then let's not waste time." Hours later, her small strike group, the Tempest Unit, prepared for launch. Soldiers checked weapons, engineers loaded the modified beacon onto the shuttle. Kane strapped in beside her. "You ever get tired of impossible missions?" She shook her head. "Never. Impossible just means human." The shuttle detached, vanishing into the black. In deep space, The stars shimmered as the Velcor fleet appeared, dozens of warships tearing through real space like knives through water. The void rippled from their power. Mara's shuttle hid behind a drifting asteroid, invisible on scanners. "Almost in range," whispered Kane. But then, alarms blared. "They've spotted us." Plasma bolts lit the darkness, cutting through asteroids like paper. The shuttle dodged and weaved, shaking violently. "Hold it steady," Mara yelled. They broke through the fire and reached the jump corridor, a swirling tunnel of blue energy connecting directly to Sol system. "Now!" she shouted. Kane activated the beacon. Red light surged across the ship. The corridor twisted, folding space like liquid glass. "Collapse in 30 seconds, the AI reported. Then a shadow loomed ahead, the vengeance of silence. The massive alien flagship turned its guns toward them. "Terran vessel," a deep voice echoed across comms. "You destroyed our empire. Now you die with your planet." Mara gritted her teeth. "You first." She armed the last plasma torpedo and fired straight into the corridor's core. The explosion tore reality apart. A blinding wave erupted. The entire jump gate imploded, dragging nearby Velcor ships into the collapsing void. The enemy flagship tried to escape, but its engines failed. It vanished into the chaos. The shockwave hit the shuttle like a hammer. Systems died, lights flickered, and the hull cracked. "Mara!" Kane shouted. "We're not going to make it." She looked out the viewport, seeing the collapsing corridor swallow the alien armada. "At least, neither will they." The shuttle vanished into the light. Hours later, silence. Then, static. A faint human beacon pulsed in the darkness. On board the Goliath, an officer gasped. "Sir, we're getting a signal. It's the Tempest unit." Reyes turned sharply. "Lock onto it." But the signal was strange, fragmented, distorted, half machine, half human. A weak voice came through. "Mission complete. Corridor collapsed. The way to Earth is closed." "Captain Holt," Reyes said softly. "Mara, do you copy?" No response. Only static. The signal faded. Reyes stood silent for a long time, then whispered, "She saved us all." He looked out the window, at the distant blue star that was Earth. For now. But far beyond human space, in the ruins of the collapsed corridor, something stirred. A fragment of alien metal drifted slowly, still glowing. Inside it, faintly, a pulse answered the dark. The war wasn't over. It was evolving. 6 months had passed since the Battle of the Corridor. The Velcor armada was gone, the path to Earth sealed, and humanity, finally, had time to breathe. Across Terran space, people rebuilt. Cities lit up again. Children played under open skies instead of bunker ceilings. For the first time in decades, there was hope. But Admiral Reyes never relaxed. Because every night, when the comm channels went silent, he still heard that last transmission. "Mission complete. Corridor collapsed. The way to Earth is closed." And nothing after that. No one had found Captain Mara Holt. Not her ship, not her crew, nothing. She was gone. Until now. In the black silence beyond the rim of known space, a small Terran beacon pulsed to life. "Signal detected," the AI on the TSV Goliath announced. "Origin, uncharted region. Signature match. Captain Holt." Reyes froze. "Trace it. Now." The screen lit with coordinates, deep in a void no human ship had ever entered. The Admiral's voice dropped. "Prepare a recovery mission. And send word to the Council. Captain Holt may have survived." 3 days later, the ship Tempest 2 entered the dark sector. The stars here were dim, twisted, as if something had drained the light out of them. Lieutenant Kane stood on the bridge, staring at the scanner. "Captain Holt's signal is dead ahead," he said quietly. "But, sir, there's something strange. It's not just her beacon. There's movement. Lots of it. Aliens, the pilot asked. Kane didn't answer. The readings were unlike anything they had ever seen. Energy signatures, alive, yet mechanical. When the ship drew closer, they saw it. Mara's old shuttle, drifting silently among the wreckage of alien metal. But it wasn't just wreckage, something had grown around it. Metallic vines. Living cables. A fusion of human steel and alien biotech. Kane whispered, "What the hell happened to her?" They locked onto the shuttle and pulled it aboard. The bay filled with steam as the airlock opened. Inside, a single figure stepped out. Mara Holt. But not the same. Her armor was scarred and fused with strange metallic veins. Her right eye glowed faintly blue, pulsing like an alien core. When she spoke, her voice was calm, but not entirely human. "Stand down," she said softly. "It's me." Kane took a cautious step forward. "Captain, what happened to you?" She looked at her hands, half metal, half flesh. "The collapse didn't kill me. It changed me. The Velcor weapon I destroyed, it wasn't just a ship. It was alive. When it exploded, part of it bonded with me." Reyes' voice crackled through comms. "Mara, this is Admiral Reyes. Are you saying it merged with you?" "Yes," she replied. "And it's not gone. I can feel it. The Harbinger isn't dead, it's evolving." Back on Earth, scientists studied the data she brought. The readings from her body showed energy patterns identical to the alien ship, but smaller, controlled. "She's carrying a fragment of the Harbinger's core," one of them said. "It's adapting inside her." Reyes watched through the glass as Mara stood calmly in containment, her glowing eyes scanning the room. He had fought aliens, monsters and gods, but this was something new. He stepped into the room. "Mara, if it's inside you, what does it want?" She looked up at him. "To survive," she said simply. "Just like us." That night, alarms blared across the base. The sky turned red. Unidentified signals appeared at the edge of Terran space. Dozens, hundreds, of ships. But their signatures were wrong. They weren't Velcor. They weren't human. They were something else. Mara felt it before the scanners did. The metal in her veins pulsed. "They're coming," she whispered. "The Harbinger's children." From the command deck, Reyes stared at the incoming swarm. The ships looked organic, like metal insects, connected by living cables. Kane's voice shook. "Those designs, they're built from Velcor and Terran tech." Reyes clenched his fists. "Then the Harbinger survived through her data. It learned from both of us." He opened the comms. "All fleets, ready weapons. This isn't an invasion, it's an infection." On the surface, Mara stood at the defense line, her armor now fully activated. The alien energy coursed through her body, glowing under her skin. She looked at the approaching swarm, then at the soldiers beside her. "They'll come for me first," she said. "Because I'm part of them now." Kane loaded his rifle. "Then they'll have to go through us to get to you." She smiled faintly. "You always say the right thing at the wrong time." The sky split open. The swarm descended, roaring like a living storm. Mara raised her arm, and a surge of blue energy burst outward, striking the lead ships. They exploded midair, vaporized by her pulse. The soldiers stared in shock. Kane whispered, "She's controlling their power." Mara's eyes glowed brighter. "Not control," she said softly. "Understanding." She turned to the swarm, her voice calm and deadly. "You wanted to survive. So did we. Let's see who deserves it more." The ground shook as the battle began. Plasma fire lit the horizon, and in the center of it all, Mara Holt, half human, half Harbinger, fought like a storm given shape. Above the planet, Admiral Reyes watched the scanners explode with readings. The alien swarm was massive, endless, but the humans were holding. He whispered to himself, "The galaxy called us Deathworlders. Maybe they were right." As the battle raged, Mara's signal flared brighter than ever, so bright it outshone the swarm. And somewhere, deep in the dark void between stars, something else woke up. Something older. Something watching. The world burned, but it was not dying. It was fighting back. Across the Terran defense lines, fire and smoke painted the horizon. The Harbinger's children swarmed like a living storm, thousands of metallic creatures tearing through the sky. Yet, even against such horror, the humans didn't retreat. Because they had Mara Holt. She stood at the center of it all, her armor cracked and glowing like molten glass. Every time she raised her hand, blue fire erupted across the battlefield. Alien ships twisted midair, their metal screaming as it was torn apart. But the power was changing her. Each surge of energy made her less human, her veins shone brighter, her voice carried a strange metallic echo. Still, she fought. Because she knew one thing, if she stopped, everyone would die. From orbit, Admiral Reyes watched the battle unfold. Every human fleet was engaged. Mars, Luna, Europa, all under attack. The galaxy had gone silent, watching what humans would do next. Reyes spoke softly to his crew. Send the message. Every channel, every language. The officer nodded. Message ready, sir. What do we tell them? The admiral looked out at the burning stars and said, tell them, humanity doesn't surrender. We evolve. The signal went out, across the void. And one by one, allied species began to respond. The Trenic warcruisers dropped out of hyperspace beside Earth. Then came the Zalani, their crystal ships shimmering like dawn. Even the once-enemy Vel-Kor survivors appeared, scarred, desperate, but ready to fight beside the humans. For the first time in galactic history, every surviving race fought together. Because the Harbinger swarm wasn't just a human problem anymore. It was the end of everything. On the ground, Mara felt their arrival through the energy inside her. They came, she whispered. They finally came. Lieutenant Kane fired at a swooping swarm and shouted, then let's show them why they call us Deathworlders. Mara closed her eyes, feeling the rhythm of the battlefield, the pulse of thousands of human hearts. She extended her hands, and the air shimmered. The alien power inside her reached out, and connected. Her voice echoed across every comm channel. This is Captain Mara Holt. I'm syncing our defenses. When I count to 3, fire everything you've got. There was silence, then her voice again, calm, fierce. 1, 2, 3. And the galaxy burned. From Earth's surface to the edges of orbit, every weapon fired at once. Planetary cannons. Ship railguns. Energy torpedoes. Even Mara's own pulse. One final burst of blue-white light that ripped through the swarm like a tidal wave. The sky itself seemed to tear open. Alien ships shattered in waves. The ground shook as the swarm disintegrated. And then, silence. The battle was over. But Mara didn't move. Her armor flickered, dimming. The glowing veins across her skin faded, one by one. Rhea's voice came through the comm, Mara. Status? No reply. Kane ran to her side. Captain. Hey. Stay with me. Her eyes opened weakly, the last flicker of light fading from her right eye. I held it together, she whispered. Just long enough. Kane shook his head. We won, Mara. You did it. She smiled faintly. No. We did. Her voice grew softer. Tell them, humanity's not what the galaxy thought. We're not monsters. We just don't give up. Her hand went still. And the battlefield, for the first time in forever, was quiet. Hours later, Admiral Reyes stood at the memorial site, a simple metal pillar in the middle of the scorched field. Around it stood soldiers, scientists, even alien envoys. They had all come to honor her. Reyes placed his hand on the pillar. She fought for us all, he said. And she taught the galaxy what being human really means. Kane, standing nearby, looked up at the sky. What now? He asked. Reyes turned toward the stars. Now we rebuild. And when the next darkness comes, we'll be ready. Far beyond their reach, in the cold void where no light should exist, a single blue spark drifted between the stars. It pulsed once, like a heartbeat. Then again. And a voice, faint but clear, whispered through the dark. We're not done yet. The spark shot forward into the unknown. And that was how the galaxy learned what Deathworlders truly were. Not monsters. Not conquerors. Survivors. The kind that never stop fighting.